You can never have too many SUVs, right? Certainly seems that way considering that more than half of new vehicle sales are going to them, and it's a trend that Volkswagen is seeing in its own lineup, where take rate percentages are basically mirroring those of the industry at large. Not bad when you consider that VW only offered two SUVs in the United States last year, the Tiguan and Atlas. That changes with the 2020 Volkswagen Atlas Cross Sport, which despite the name, common architecture and obvious resemblance, is different enough to be considered a separate model from VW's existing three-row SUV. It seats only 5 and 2 rows, for starters, and adopts a lower and more rakish roofline that makes it look more muscular and less homely. Overall height is down 2.2 inches, while its length is reduced by 2.8 inches. Remember, however, that the three-row Atlas is a thoroughly enormous thing born of Volkswagen's apparent ethos that American customers primarily want products that are huge and inexpensive. You know, like a big gulp. The Cross Sport is decidedly less adherent to this 7-Eleven philosophy, but is still very large, measuring a whopping 5 inches longer than a Honda Passport with a wheelbase that's 6.3 inches longer. You're well aware of this size behind the wheel. You look through a narrow windshield across a broad, flat hood that stretches out like it's expecting to welcome a helicopter. The ride feels considerably solid and weighty. It weighs only about 100 pounds less than the regular Atlas, with a decidedly Germanic feel. However, there's also nothing remotely athletic about it, and it possesses Volkswagen's numb and curiously elastic steering effort. Pressing the Sport button merely adds resistance to the wheel, as if swapping out bands on a Soloflex. However, it's inside where the Cross Sport puts its size to use. The back seat has 40.4 inches of legroom, which is actually 2.8 inches more than the regular Atlas thanks to room freed up by ditching the third row. That sounds impressive on paper, but it's even better in person. I positioned the front passenger seat as far back as it could go, and despite me being 6'3", my feet weren't touching the firewall. Then, when seated in the back, my knees weren't touching the front seat back. That's crazy, and in person and on paper, it easily exceeds the Passport and Chevy Blazer, both 39.6 inches of rear legroom. This much space between rows is also a boon when fitting child seats. There's less headroom than all of the above at 37.8 inches, however, and certain passengers may graze their heads, especially if a panoramic sunroof is fitted. It's a good thing, then, that the back seat also reclines to a luxuriant degree, which increases comfort and pretty much takes care of the headroom issue. True, reclining the back seat reduces cargo space, but the Cross Sport has more than enough to spare. All that vehicle length.